Last night, I got top 8 in one of the first Regulation G tournaments with about 80 people, and I figured I'd want to showcase the team for you guys. You guys can see it on the screen right there. We did indeed use Groudon as our restricted Pokemon, and I feel like this is a little bit of a different take than some of the Groudon teams we've seen floating around, where they're really heavily invested on utilizing the sun to take advantage, like take full advantage. You get the walking wake, all the photosynthesis mons, maybe a chlorophyll mon, right? I wanted to take a different approach with Groudon because I feel like that's not very reliable in a meta where there's going to be enough ways to change weather around, enough ways to remove weather. I wanted to take a more balanced approach to a Groudon team, and we're going to go over my thoughts on the archetype and where I think it's going to go moving forward, because the disclaimer is, guys, we are day 3 after the format reveal right now. The format was quite literally revealed 3 days ago. The meta is going to be changing on a daily basis, if not quicker than that. This team probably does not hold up for very long, but I'm going to treat it as a kind of a look into where I think Groudon is going to go as an archetype, as opposed to like saying that this team is the best. Because one, I don't think this team is the best. I don't think this team is going to hold up. If that makes you click off the video, I'm sorry, but the team is still strong. I think the concepts of the team are strong, and that's what we're going to go over today. So we're going to start with the Groudon, and in my opinion, Groudon has 2 items in this format. You go with the big hype on the Clear Amulet, preventing stat drops, which in my opinion is the best item, right? You run Clear Amulet on Groudon, and that's obviously why I have it here. Just not being able to get intimidated by an Instant Cycle or a Landorus if they decide to bring that back, right? Just not being intimidated is massive. Not getting Icy Winded down, really, really good. You can't get Parting Shotted out. So the Groudon becomes an incredibly strong piece that is very, very difficult to take down. Of course, Precipice Blades is sadly a necessary evil on this Pokemon. It sucks, okay? The move absolutely sucks. Don't get me wrong. I had a miss counter on my stream yesterday during the stream of the tournament run, and I surprisingly only missed 6 throughout the whole tournament, which is actually very, very strong, right? But it's a necessary evil. The upside of Precipice Blades on a Groudon is so high that you need to risk it at some points, and you're going to just need to say, I'm going to hit Precipice Blades, and that's my win condition. But it's such a good move, you kind of need to have it. Stomping Tantrum, this is the move slot that has room to play. You can go Stomping Tantrum, you can go Swords Dance, you can go Bulk Up. There is a lot of options. You have high horsepower as well. Now, I opted for Tantrum. I did test Swords Dance, but I opted for Stomping Tantrum because, as I just said, Precipice Blade sucks, okay? And I really wanted to have that 100% accurate move, and having Tantrum felt like a really, really strong upside. If they decided to fake out my Groudon, since they couldn't really Parting Shot, right? If they decided to fake out my Groudon, next turn I've got the big punishing Stomping Tantrum. If I double miss a Precipice Blades, next turn I have a big punishing Stomping Tantrum. But my main selling point for Tantrum was having that 100% accurate move that if I needed to remove something, let's just say like an Incineroar, and it was at 40% health, I needed to remove that piece right away. That's what Stomping Tantrum was for. If I could not risk a miss and I only needed to connect into that one slot at relatively low health, Stomping Tantrum was going to pick that up 100% of the time. It gave me lines, and it came up in the tournament time and time again where it was, oh, I need to make sure I remove this piece, and I can safely do that now without having a minor heart attack every single time. Right? Now, granted, could I have just risked the Precipice Blades and said, I'm going to be better? Absolutely. But the way I like to play this Pokemon is to mitigate the amount of times I have to click this move. Same with Tornadus, right? Obviously, a little different with Torn since you don't have any other attacking moves, but here I have other attacking moves. So if I can mitigate the amount of times I have to press Precipice Blades in a match, I'm inevitably going to miss less of them, right? So having Tantrum felt really, really strong, but once again, I don't think it's a necessity. I think this could adapt with a Swords Dance, especially given the fact that I have double Fake Out, right? Double Fake Out cycle. I have big damage as well coming out of Urshifu Flutter main, right? I can get away. There's going to be turns where I'm going to get Swords Dance off, right? So I do think Swords Dance is good, but having that single target guaranteed to connect feels really, really good on a Groudon. And then, of course, you go Heat Crash. Now, Heat Crash is not great versus other restricteds, since a lot of the restricted Pokemon are naturally heavy. However, Heat Crash does a very good job of removing like 90% of the things that just aren't restricted. And that's why I like Heat Crash over Fire Punch. Fire Punch at base 75 just doesn't really do enough for me. Heat Crash, I'm just removing Rillabooms from the field. I'm removing Flutter Mains from the field, right? Terra type Fire, it's very similar to that Lando, where you'd want to just Terra. It's a defensive Terra, but it also benefits one of your options here as well. And it just is really, really strong. Terra Fire, I can't get burned. I get to boost my Heat Crash. I resist Grass. I don't care that I'm weak to Water because I'm already weak to Water and I'm into Sun, so I don't really care about it all that much. And then, of course, I just closed it off with the Protect. Nothing crazy going on with the spread, guys. A lot of this is just sliders. I wanted to hit the second bump in attack on Adamant. I wanted to hit around the 120 mark. Nothing too crazy right there. There's a bit of synergy off, but I think around 120 is where Groudon should sit as the meta develops. Give or take, plus or minus here or there. And then I just put it into bulk to be giving me the best chances to survive special attacks. Because that's where people are going to try and target Groudon. Right? You're going to try and hit this Groudon down, maybe the Calyrex Astral Barrage. We do not die to +1 Astral Barrage from a Calyrex, and that is massive. Right? We do not die to Terraghost Life Orb Astral Barrage. That is massive. Right? That one actually might be like a 12% roll or something. But regardless, not dying to massive special attacks that are very prevalent in the format is really, really strong here. Once again, the spread could use work. It's a early format team. I'm not too sold on the spreads, and this is one of the main reasons I am not giving away a rental for this team. I'll put the paste down below for you guys to try out, but there is 0 point in giving you guys a rental that is of a team that's probably not going to be relevant, or of the 6 Pokemon that aren't going to be relevant in by the time the format actually opens up on Showdown, or Battle Stadium, I should say. But that's the Incineroar for you guys. And then once again, sorry, that's the Groudon for you guys. Let's move on to Incineroar. Safety goggles just in case any of these Amoonguses were floating around still. And I think Amoongus is still going to be seen. I haven't really played too many of them, but I think they're going to be around. Other than that, guys, this is your normal Incin. I did switch to Impish because I have been running Careful in the past format. I switched to Impish. Impish is here, max HP, 76 Impish allows you to live Precipice Blades constantly, unless of course it becomes not spread. But this allows me to live a Precipice Blades. Now, I'm not saying that I should have Incineroar in front of a Groudon constantly, but Incineroar is such a good pivot piece that sometimes you're going to need to bring it versus a Groudon. And being able to live a Precipice Blades, maybe get a Parting Shot off into the other slot, is super, super important. So I felt like that was a necessary calc to hit. Everything else is just, you know, there's still big special attackers. I'm using this to beat Calyrex, so having 156 special attack made sense. And then just whatever I had left over in attack and speed, nothing too crazy. You could probably creep speed a little bit, get a little bit of a faster fake out, but there's also something to be said about a slow Parting Shot. Other than that, it's a typical Incin, guys. There's something to be said. Maybe Terra Ghost is a little outdated, but if I'm the only reason I'm not clicking Terra Ghost is because of Calyrex, then I shouldn't really care, because if I'm in a spot where I have to Terra my Incineroar against the Calyrex anyways, I'm losing my Calyrex answer naturally already, so is it really worth it to change my Terra type? I don't know. I left it as Ghost for now. That's something to look into. If you are trying out the team, there's options there as well. But other than that, like I said, normal moveset, nothing crazy going on with Incin. Urshifu. I liked Urshifu here. This gave me not only a second Dark type, which is very nice into Calyrex, it forces teams off of just clicking Astral Barrage and going Burr. It also gives me the ability to go double Fake Out plus Urshifu, which is always really, really good. Wicked Blow hits a ton of things hard. Terra Dark, this is my wall breaker, right? It's also very, very good into the Terrapagos matchup. Unfortunately, I did lose in top 8 to a Terrapagos. Urshifu did not quite do enough, but I blame the Comfey for that one, not the Terrapagos, okay? Either way, once again, nothing crazy here. This is a Sash Urshifu, guys. I'm not going to sit here for 4 minutes talking about a Sash Urshifu, right? It's just kind of here, helps break some things up, does some big damage when I need it to do some big damage, helps versus both the Cali matchups, which is super, super important, helps versus Trick Room as well. That's why it's here. Now, pretty much my only abuser in Raging Bolt, my only Sun abuser here for Raging Bolt. Well, Fluttermane, I guess, is technically a Sun abuser as well, but regardless, Raging Bolt here is one thing. It is a consistent Pokemon, right? I don't care that if I don't have Sun up for a Raging Bolt, I do not care. Whereas some of, like I said, the other teams at right off the get-go, right? Walking Wake really, really appreciates having Sun up. It almost feels like it needs it, right? But I wanted to use Mons that could take advantage of the Sun without necessarily needing the Sun, right? Everything here is pretty standard. Your standard AV Raging Bolt, nothing too crazy. There is Volt Switch we'll talk about in a minute. The spread, I don't really know, guys. I just kind of fooled around with the sliders. 115 felt like a cool spot to hit. Didn't really need more than 20 special attack for what I'm using the Raging Bolt for. I wasn't really trying to remove pieces immediately. And if I needed to do that, I have the option to get Sun on and drop things with a +1 Draco Meteor or a booster special attack Draco Meteor or Thunderclap, right? I have the options to remove things when I needed to, but I also had the right amount of bulk to be able to survive things. And surviving things in this format, especially with a piece that I'm using as a pivot piece, feels really, really strong. And my concept here with Volt Switch, this was very test. It was very just me trying to see if it worked. And honestly, I was very impressed with Volt Switch. When I play weather teams, especially in a format where there's other weather setters or Pokemon trying to remove my weather from the field, having pivot pieces feels incredible. So having the ability to have Groudon in the field, beside 3 of my other pieces, switch Groudon out and parting shot, Volt Switch, or U-turn back into my Groudon felt incredible. It felt like incredible board control, and just having the board control here is incredible because now not only can I do that with Groudon, I can also just pivot around my pieces, right? If I need to reset a Rillaboom Intimidate, Rillaboom can come out. I can get a slow Volt Switch with Raging Bolt, Rillaboom comes back in, right? If I need to reset Urshifu so it doesn't hit a fake out, Urshifu comes out, they fake out that slot, I Volt Switch out, Urshifu comes back in, still has a sash, ready to go for next turn. I don't have to worry about maybe clicking a Protect in front of an Urshifu. Maybe I had just clicked Protect. Regardless, I think pivot pieces on a balanced weather team like this are really, really important. Now, did I maybe miss Thunderbolt at certain times for an extra damage output? A little bit. Maybe this is supposed to be Terra Electric instead of Terra Fairy, right? And then you go Terra Electric and you just get that extra damage that maybe you were missing before. However, I am a very big fan of Volt Switch. Maybe you don't need Snarl if you can adapt the team properly. But regardless, I think Volt Switch was heat. Other than that, nothing crazy. Once again, you can play around with the spread, guys. None of these spreads I don't think are like final or like actually like gel with the team entirely. You'll see why in a minute because I do have Icy Wind. There are some benchmarks that I did hit, but absolutely nothing crazy with them, right? Rillaboom, once again, I didn't have an AV slot open because the AV slot was on my Raging Bolt. I have debated going Terra Poison on Rillaboom instead of Terra Fire since I already have a Fire type, a Terra Fire Groudon. So there's room for the Terra here. Maybe Terra Steel as well could be something cool. But I think Fire was just consistent. It's kind of just what I had. It was early format. I didn't really want to change too much. I wanted to stick with it. And once again, just Grassy Glide Miracle Seed, guys. It's doing damage. It's here to pick off things. It does some good damage when I need it to. Woodhammer, of course, is an absolute nuke button. You're just gonna take things out with a Woodhammer, right? It's incredible, right? So nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to talk about here, right? I don't know why I'm trying to talk about Miracle Seed Rillaboom. We've seen Miracle Seed Rillaboom for a while now. There's nothing new here, right? Once again, you can go taunt here. This is the one thing I will talk about. You can go taunt over U-turn. However, like I said before, I am addicted to pivoting. And being able to pivot with 3 of my Pokemon beside Groudon felt fun. Okay? Taunt is very, very strong here. Just taunting away. Maybe you taunt like a Comfey. Maybe you taunt a Trick Room setter. Taunt would have definitely come in handy versus that Terrapagos team that I lost to in top 8. That's all I'm going to say. Taunt is very nice versus a lot of the Trick Room stuff as well right now. So maybe it is supposed to be taunt, and maybe I need to put my pivoting addiction behind me. But regardless, I went U-turn. Taunt is a very, very viable option here. You can also go ahead and put a Protect here if you don't feel the need to put taunt. But I feel like with a defensive Terra, you don't necessarily need Protect as much. If you do want to just commit to Terra Grass for damage, then you can go ahead and put Protect here. But other than that, the spread is nothing crazy. I hit the 3rd bump, I believe it is. Other than that, just HP is for the grassy terrain recovery, optimization, and then just a bunch of bulk and some relatively nice speed. Nothing too slow, nothing too fast. Just kind of midpoint there. And then Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane was, I originally had Booster, but then I was like, I get a lot of advantage out of Specs, and if I can go Specs and I go Speed Boosting Specs, right? I have Speed Boosting Specs. Speed Boosting Specs allows me to just be fast anyways. And the one thing I would mention is if you are running Speed Boosting Specs, just go faster. I took an old spread, guys. Just go faster here. Be the faster Flutter main into Sun, please. Like, I don't know what you drop. I would have to actually look into the spread. You probably drop a bit of defense, but guys, please just be the faster Flutter main if you're gonna do this. If you're gonna have Icy Wind, and your whole game plan is to take advantage of speed booster, spec speed booster, and maybe be able to Icy Wind into opponents, just be the fastest Flutter main on the field at all times. Like, I don't know what I was cooking here. This should be the fastest Flutter main on the field. This was me being lazy. I'm going to be honest. Be the fastest Flutter main. Now, I'm not saying you have to go max, but somewhere reasonable that's probably a little bit faster than some of the other timid Flutter mains. Now, granted, I was faster probably a majority of the time, but those times when you're not faster, it's a real big feels bad moment, you know? And you just, especially if you're going to use it for the mirror matchup, Icy Wind is really, really good because Flutter main Groudon is like Xerneas Groudon at home, right? I have massive offensive pressure with fairy ground coverage. It's perfect offensive synergy. You can't get around that, right? You have to have dual typing. If they tear it into a fairy any type that's going to resist my fairy Groudon is going to blow them up, right? It is very strong offensive synergy, right? And I wanted to take advantage of that where they're going to say, they have to be scared of me just clicking Moonblast, and they also have to be scared of me lowering their speeds into clicking Groudon Precipice Blades, right? Which is another very large thing, I think. And this is what I was saying when the team isn't fully synergized, because 120 is not very fast, right? I'm not really catching a lot of things with Icy Wind into P-Blade, so maybe a little bit of a faster Groudon could be brought up for that. I don't know why I put the air quotes up there. I expected to say some random word, and I don't know, my brain just said air quotes, do it. I don't know. Regardless, I'm rambling at this point, guys, but the team is very, very strong. But once again, outside of Icy Wind, this is probably a pretty standard Flutter main. Even with Icy Wind, it's probably a pretty standard specs Flutter main. There is nothing crazy here. Maybe put in a little bit more special attack could be something to consider as well, especially if I'm going to lose bulk, right? Lose bulk, go down to like a lot lower of a benchmark that I want to hit, put this speed up, and whatever left over dump into special attack, maybe start hitting things harder. I have not run a lot of calcs with this team. I think the team is very, very strong. And like I said, I wanted to build a Groudon team that was meant to kind of withstand not having Groudon. And during the tournament, I was actually capable of, I actually didn't bring Groudon twice. There were 2 matches I just said, I'm not bringing Groudon. And I was perfectly fine with that. It worked. Right? And having a matchup where you can just have the luxury maybe to not bring your restricted. Now, I'm not saying there's a lot of opportunities where you're going to not bring your restricted, because that's probably a thought process that you're going to have when you're using a lesser restricted, because Groudon is a very good restricted. But truth be told, there's going to be restricted games in single restricted formats where you just do not want to bring your restricted. And I did not want a team that was reliant on having Sun, which is why I wanted to run the more balanced variant of Groudon. And I think a well-built, balanced Groudon team is going to do very, very well in this format. Do I think it's these 6 specifically? These 6 are a very strong start. But I do think there are other ways to play this team. Like, without Groudon, I still have double fake out Urshifu, which is a very strong mode. I have Incineroar Flutter Raging Bolt, which is a very strong mode, right? I also have Incineroar Raging Bolt Urshifu, which is, once again, guess what? A very strong mode, right? So I'm not committed to fully being reliant on my Groudon. And similar, like, as opposed to like those Terrapagos teams, the entire team is built to support Terrapagos, to make Terrapagos go. This team was built to, yes, make Groudon work in a way, but also just still be a really strong team if I couldn't bring Groudon. Because I know from previous restricted format experience, you're not able to bring Groudon all the time. Maybe they have Kyogre and Rain Dance. I'm not bringing Groudon to that. I'm sorry, right? Like they have Kyogre and Rain Dance Torn. I don't want to bring Groudon there. I will leverage Raging Bolt, Rillaboom, Urshifu, Flutter main, or Incineroar, right? Like, I can leverage the other Pokemon, right? Maybe the Calyrex Shadow just does too much damage too fast if I decide to bring Groudon, which is the case. That is the case where I didn't bring Groudon to 2 matches. They were both Calyrex Shadow matchups in expanding force, right? I had no reason to bring Groudon into that, right? I'm not saying I can't bring Groudon versus Calyrex, but I now have the option to not bring it. And I think that's something that is not looked at enough when building in these formats. You say a lot of players right now are taking teams and they're saying, Sun, I'm going to send Sun team, right? And that's early format. It's early format building. I wanted to take a look and see where a balanced Groudon form could go. And I got the results that I was looking for. This team felt incredible yesterday, right? Is this team going to feel good tomorrow? I don't know. Is this team going to feel good 3 weeks from now? It might. I do think a balanced Groudon team and a well-built balanced Groudon team is really, really strong. Weaknesses right now, Calyrex Ice is a massive one. Yes, I have Urshifu and Incin, but I'm really, really leaning hard on those two to just get out of that matchup. If they get Trick Room going, Glacial Lance is disgusting versus me because like it just drops Raging Bolt, it drops Ground, it drops Rillaboom. One of the difficult matchups, we're starting to see Calyrex Ice pair up with Ursaluna Blood Moon right now on Trick Room teams, and that is absolutely terrifying. I cannot do a lot versus that. I did manage to beat it yesterday, but that was simply just, I don't know, I got reads right. Other than that, I don't think I would have been able to beat it. So I think there's some adaptations that need to happen. A well-played Flutter main can steamroll this team as well. It is very, very scary. The mirror match between Groudon Flutter main versus our Groudon Flutter main is not fun either, because Groudon does a lot to this team as well. I can't really hit it super hard. I need to kind of pivot around properly. I need to leverage my Groudon. It's spooky. Like I said, there's a lot of things I'm not happy about with this team. But the way the meta started, the way the meta has shaped up, I do think balanced Groudon is really, really strong. And I wanted to highlight that. So I apologize if I was rambling a little bit longer here, guys. But I did want to just kind of get those points across and make sure I'm like reiterating. Because like I think there's a lot of players out there that'll see a video and go, oh, wow, this top cut team, it must be really, really good. Try the team, be disappointed, right? I think the team, especially early format, was strong for early format. But I think as the meta develops on the daily right now, it's going to get cycled out. It's going to get phased out. We're going to find new partners and better partners for Pokemon for the restricteds. Right? So I don't think you can go just try this team verbatim. Hey, try it out. See if it likes, see if you click with it, but feel free to make changes. If you think something isn't working, don't be like, oh my goodness, this team is so good. Why is it not working for me? There's a very good chance by the time you try this team, it is not good anymore. But the team is really, really strong. I think the concepts are really, really strong, and I really wanted to highlight it for you guys. But with that, I am going to stop rambling now. Please feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you guys do enjoy this type of content. It does help out the channel, and of course, I really do appreciate it. But with that, I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you all in a future video.